me tolerating someone abusing me in front of my two small children, like I'm showing my kids that they should tolerate this behavior.
Yeah.
And if I didn't get out, I would have taught them that like
So what's going on, everybody? So on today's show, we have Sophia Willets. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
So Sophia, you're a big time into multifamily, that whole world.
Yeah.
You're running your own kind of brokerage firm, like a branch or something like that. Killing the game. Super excited to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, totally. So you're the owner of Grace CRE, which is commercial real estate, multifamily brokerage.
Yes.
Now, is that your own brokerage? Are you tied to another brokerage, or you're on your own?
We're completely on our own. We just opened up our second office out in Fort Lauderdale, so we're going to be in the Florida market. And our next branch that we're opening here, actually March of 24, is in Vegas.
Nice. So you'll be in Phoenix, Florida, and Vegas.
Yes. Eventually, we'll be in the California market as well, but we're completely 100%. We own our own company.
That's amazing. California is a tough one.
A little bit more complicated to get our structure set up, but we are actually currently working on it.
Okay. I think the other markets are good, though, that you picked. So obviously, you're married.
Yes.
Your husband's in the studio with us. So cool. He came. 3 kids.
Yes.
Austrian?
Yes. My dad's from Austria.
Austria. Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah,
And
so he talks like Schwarzenegger.
your dad does?
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. So,
Yeah.
Josh, you were like, you talk to him and stuff? Do you see him?
Yeah.
You're like, hey, do you make fun of him?
We have a hard time understanding.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. So we know where you're at today, right? And we'll get into that. But I want to know a little bit about, your past, growing up, obviously the Austrian background, but you were born and raised in, I think you were raised in Mesa.
Yeah.
How'd that look like coming up as a kid? You got your parents have a different kind of, they talk different, they look different than the rest of the neighborhood. And, how'd that look?
Oh, absolutely. So my mom's actually from Idaho. She moved here when she in her early 20s, and she actually met my dad at his car lot. But go back a little bit further. My dad was a World War II baby. He was
nice.
adopted out in the war. He was born in 44, so he actually remembers running away from bombs. And his aunt adopted him, so he had a different mindset growing up. The challenges with my father, like not being able to actually make it because he couldn't even finish the 5th grade. So his family, which is his mom, they saved up to be able to come to America when he was 21. He learned how to work on cars, didn't speak any English, but he had that hustle mentality, and the people liked him working on the car, so they sent him to school. And eventually he ended up getting his own car lot. But, within that industry, he ended up hurting his back. And at that time, he ended up meeting my mom. My dad was going through a divorce at that time, and she met him at the car lot, and he needed a new business. So he actually sold his car lot, and from doing actual mechanical repairs on overhauls on engines, and he bought apartments, and he retired at 36.
Oh, wow. There's the plug, huh?
Yes.
There's a multifamily plug. So growing up, so your dad like literally was like seeing the war like firsthand.
Yeah, so we have a World War II baby survivor. He still has that kind of like abandonment of orphan syndrome. I feel like I'm my dad's parent now because like he's older. He's almost 80 now.
Yeah.
And I'm always still having to like comfort him on certain things, but like being raised by like a father like that, I really thought we were really poor, even though like we had like a brand new home. It was like, I think he paid like 60 or 65,000, but back in the 80s, that was a lot of money because it was at 16% rate.
Yeah.
So, my dad hustled with his apartments. He bought our house, and my mom worked part-time just to have our family have benefits. My dad was too cheap to have AC, so we didn't have AC in our house. We had like those, shitty little swamp coolers.
Hey, when you came in here and it was hot, you're like, God, this is like my dad.
Yeah, exactly. But, like I didn't know any different. My dad went to like the secondhand stores, and everything was like, he would go dumpster diving for stuff for his apartments.
Yeah.
I really thought we had no money growing up, but we
Yeah.
actually had money. My dad was just really frugal, and he knew how to make another dollar out of a dollar.
Yeah.
So in essence, you know, like my dad was pretty hard on me growing up, and, you know, my parents didn't give me any money. So I was like, I need to make some money. So I started babysitting when I was 12. I started door-to-door sales at 14. I've had over 35 jobs, and I just hustled. And for me, like, that's all I knew to be able to make sales. I was really terrible at school. I could barely pass high school. I think they passed me because they felt sorry for me, to be honest.
So sales at 14.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. You know what? I was reading like your bio, and we're doing a little research on you and stuff. And you like, I was kind of similar growing up. We would dumpster dive. We were poor. My dad, he was actually my adopted dad.
Oh, wonderful.
And he got his foot cut off when I was little.
Oh, you know, my dad actually has his foot cut off,
That's
too.
why I'm bringing it up.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah, so I was like, man, we got so much similarities because it was the same thing. But we were poor, you know, but it was like I was reading your stuff, and I'm like, man, we had a lot in common. Obviously, he doesn't sound like Schwarzenegger.
Didn't have the same success as him.
No. You know, but I was just, those are cool similarities. They're not cool, but it's like, it's cool to know, like, I wasn't the only person, or like now, you know, you weren't the only person or whatever, you know what I mean? So you're 14, and what kind of sales are you doing at 14?
Okay, so it's really ghetto, right?
No, well, that's cool, though.
Okay, so you ever see those, like, taped up signs that say, hey, after school, like, make sales, like you pull off the number, like that old stuff. Okay,
like a phone number, and you call it for whatever.
Yes.
What was it?
And what it was selling candy door to door, right?
Oh, nice.
And they would pick you up. They'd pick up a bunch of teens and stuff, and they would drive you off and drop you off in neighborhoods and say it was for like charity, but it really wasn't. So every dollar, it was such a scam. It was like, you know, you see those 10 packs of like candy.
I know,
like,
the poor kids.
For $5.
Hey, they drop them off and leave them in the middle of the sun for like 7 hours.
Oh my God, I've had such terrible experiences. Like I've been picked up late. Like one guy like invited me in his house. Like I knew he wanted to do something to me. I was scared shitless. You know, like, but I was young. I was just like, I need to make money.
You want to make money.
Yeah, I just didn't know, but like knowing now, I'm like, I would never let my kids do that.
Hey, knowing now, you're like, I'll just buy my own candy bars and sell my own candy bars to keep 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And then hire a couple of people, because you would only get. I mean, we helped the kids out when they would come through the neighborhood, and it's like, I asked them, how much are you getting? Like 20 cents or something, or.
Yeah, but people are desperate. You know, it's not like their parents are giving them anything.
Yeah, so they're trying. Yeah. So you're selling candy door to door, grinding at 14. That's so
I was
cool.
making more money than my brother at Jack in the Box. He was pissed off at the time.
And so he's like 16, 17 or something?
I was making like $150 more a week than he was. And he was like...
Has anything changed?
We're very different.
That's funny. So you're selling at 14. You go into high school. And you said you kind of had a rough time in high school.
Yeah.
Was it just like you didn't like just being there every day, having to get into
I just had a hard time studying. Plus, my dad was hard on me growing up, so I didn't have any self-worth. So I got into a very violent relationship for 9 years. I was lucky I actually got out alive.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was with him from 15 to 24.
It was terrible.
Yeah. But you don't know that stuff because, like, you didn't have that, like, modeled marriage growing up, so I didn't know what it actually meant to be loved. Yeah,
I think sometimes kids, they still go through that even with the modeled marriage because, you know, at some point, you have to find your own self-worth. And I don't think we find that, like we get that confidence till we get a little older, till we start getting some wins. Yeah. So they don't know who they are, like yourself when you're younger. Myself, I didn't know who I was, so I was doing a bunch of stupid stuff anyways.
My dad was really hard because I pretty much had no self-worth unless I made money. My dad's worth was how much income can you produce, and that was just his way of his survival. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pretty much didn't respect me until I really made something happen for myself.
Yeah. I think, I mean, is he still alive?
Yes, we're best friends.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't speak from, because I kind of see myself that way. I don't want to say I'm like this jerk, but I really put this pressure on my children to like do something with their lives, you know, and maybe I put too much pressure. But I don't want, you know, because I know I lived the other part, you know.
100%.
So I guess there's a fine line. But I'm sure he did it out of love. He just didn't know how to do it.
my dad had his own alcohol problems.
Yeah.
So that definitely, and then also too, just being raised the way he was, he still had abandonment issues. But like, I love my dad for who he is. I love that he was hard on me because I wouldn't have the success that I have today.
Well, I mean, if he wasn't, you probably would have really been, instead of one guy for all those years, you'd have been, what, 50?
Yeah, exactly.
That could have been, you know.
Exactly. So getting into real estate, I was a wannabe investor in like 2000, I would say. Well, I got my first house when I turned 19.
Yep.
I rented out every single room, including my laundry room, to a little girl that was like pregnant. I rented out my laundry room for $200 it was a place for her to lay her head. But I was cash flowing, and that was like in the early 2000s. And then I sold that place and then bought another one. And then I got into sales at a furniture store called Lazy Boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I really excelled there. I thought I was a big baller. I was, my early 20s. Like, I was 21 when I joined. And I remember making my first $7,000. Like, I was always, like, top in sales, like, with every retail store and all these other places.
Mm-hmm.
But I never made that type of money before. And I was like, I'm going to buy a bunch of real estate.
So that was, like, your first big check or whatever it was? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, my gosh, I can do anything. And, this is in 06 where in 05, everyone's just throwing their wallets at your head.
Mm-hmm.
And just, you're popping, like, you're selling $40,000, like, whole entire homes, right? And you're making like 4 to 6% commission off of that stuff. So I was like on top of my game until I wasn't anymore. The market definitely shifted in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was actually selling his apartments in 06, 07. He's like, Sophia, you're going to lose everything. And I'm like, Papa, you don't know what you're talking about. He's like, he owned his apartments for 20 something years. And that's when he was exiting and he was making a huge profit.
Yeah.
And I was just getting in and I was getting on these short-term debt. Like I as soon as like I bought the property, I actually owed more on it for every payment I made. I got on these crazy loans, like all these arms and all these
That's what the house is?
Yes. Yeah. That's when like everyone would just give you a loan.
No, I know. But you had this in balloons and it just inflated.
Yeah, I even told some of the loan officers, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna foreclose on this one. I just need my equity out. And they're like, oh, I didn't hear that. And they give me the money anyway.
Yeah.
So it was pretty unethical. The people that were giving the money, that was at Countrywide at the time. But I ended up being $1 million in debt at 24. Ended up losing my job at Lazy Boy because people weren't buying furniture anymore for the houses that they all lost. And I got on unemployment and went back to, I went to school to become a beautician. And I got pregnant pretty quickly with my first husband. And, here I am now in the recession on unemployment and now doing hair with people can't even afford it. So it was a big wake-up call.
Yeah, so you went from... you're hustling, selling candy, then you get a job at Lazy Boy, then you get into
I lose everything.
You lose everything.
Got filed bankruptcy, $1 million in debt at 24 years old.
And then you get in, and then you start going to school again, like a trade school for hair.
Yeah.
Why'd you pick hair?
I actually started it when I was in high school, just didn't finish, so I had some hours left, and I was like, I'm on unemployment anyway, might as well do a trade school so I can be at home with my kids and be a mom.
So what happened to your dad's apartments?
My dad sold them in 06 when he told me to...
Had you known, you could have probably bought those. That could have been the first deal.
Potentially, but I didn't know anything about commercial real estate. Yeah. I was just like, I'm going to flip houses.
Well, and it wasn't... like today, that stuff's sexy. It's all over the internet, multifamily. You got Grant Cardone leading the way. You got all these...
Well, that's Class A. That's different.
I know.
I sell really ugly shit. So.
C and D.
Yeah.
You're like really
that's different.
Hey, whatever you can sell, you sell. Hey, commission.
Yeah, ugly sells because I can make it beautiful again.
Yeah, no, totally. But you know what I mean? It's sexy now. Back then, like you didn't know, like I didn't know. You know what I mean? Now it's like you see everything. You know about everything now because it's all over Instagram or YouTube or whatever it is. So you're cutting hair. You're going to school to cut hair. Yeah. How long does that last?
I did it until 2013. I had now a 2.5-year-old. I had a 5-month-old, and we were putting groceries on credit cards. And like, trust me, they weren't even my own credit cards. They were my mom's because I couldn't afford to live. We had a loan modification. We had nothing. So
this is you reset your life, and you're back in the same boat.
Way worse.
The second time.
Yes, way worse. And now I'm 30.
Yeah.
And I looked down at my paycheck that had like in my 401k, I had $343 to my name. And I'm like, I'm never going to get out of this. And so like I went home that day and I told my ex-husband, I'm like, hey, I'm not making it. I need to go back into sales. He's like, well, it's not the right time. I'm like, it's never going to be the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if we're going to lose everything if we don't. So we took out a loan out of the 401k out of his that he'd been contributing to. And then I went all in on real estate, and I actually thought I was going to sell beautiful little houses. I didn't know I was going to get into multifamily. I had 10 interviews lined up with all these different brokers, but there was one broker that actually sent me a letter, and I actually worked for him when I was 17, but he fired me, which is kind of funny. So I was going to one interview to another, and I'm like, I'm going to stop by and see the old man, because like I would pass by every day and I see that letter that he sent me when I was in real estate school. I'm like, I'm going to go see the old dog, you know? Mm-hmm. So I went and saw him, and I saw him in the parking lot. I'm like, Steven? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm here for an interview. And he's like, oh, okay, come on in. So I started talking to him. He's like, you look familiar. I'm like, shit, do I lie? What do I say? I'm like, okay. I'm like, you fired me, Steve. And he's like, are you sure I fired you? I'm like, yes, you did. But he kept me there for 3 hours.
So that was like, what, 13 years before or something?
Yeah, this is in 2013.
Yeah.
11 years ago.
No, I'm saying the time you seen him to the time he fired, it was like, what, 12, 13 years or something?
Yeah. I was 17 at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, like, the reason why I wanted to work for him was because I felt more recession-proof. I had already lost everything. He said I could sell single family, multifamily. I'm like, well, my dad owns multifamily. And he's like, oh, I'm not saying that's going to be your niche. I'm like, yeah, but my dad owns multifamily. You know, I'm like, he's like, oh, yeah, this girl over here, and she's making like $250,000 a year. I was like, what? Huh. Couldn't even fathom that money.
Well, yeah, you've been in debt and you're struggling, right?
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make it happen. So I chose to hang my license there. I made my first sale happen in 10 days. I sold 24 apartment buildings my first year. And I was able
So 24 buildings. Mm-hmm. What did that look like? Like 12 units, 4 units, everything?
Everything in between, yeah. So just like the 2 to 100 unit range.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I just hustled. Like I hustled those phones. I was working 80 plus hours a week. I didn't stop. I was a machine. And then I was able to retire my ex-husband in the first year.
And then you retired him later.
Yes,
forever.
100%. He was supposed to be my teammate, but he didn't want to do actual real estate. He just wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. And that's definitely can be a conflict.
So was there a mind shift, because you tried all these different kind of, industries and stuff like that. Was there a mind shift when you went back in and seen that gentleman? Because you said you started hustling and grinding, like,
I had to, because we were in debt to be able to make it. I didn't have.
So you were in survival.
I didn't have a choice.
Yeah. Do you feel like a lot of people can't get into that survival mold today? And that's what kind of holds them back from really succeeding or going to that next level.
People like to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, I was going to lose everything anyway, so I didn't have a choice.
Yeah,
when you don't have a choice, you have to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom used to say, go for the gusto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just go. Just do it.
Absolutely.
Right. So you're is the guy still in business? Is he still alive? The old guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you say hi to him? You send him a thank you card? Are you just you're mopping him up now, huh?
Just different.
Of course, you're for yourself. It's years ago, right? So you start killing the game early on, and was there resistance from some of your peers? Like, who's this chick? Who's this girl coming in here doing this and that? Like, did you get any of that?
No, actually, everyone thought I was doing very well.
Okay.
Except I just didn't realize I was giving all my deals away.
What do you mean?
So I was a sales broker, right? Mm-hmm. So that means I would find the actual seller, find the buyer, bring the two together. 75% of all my transactions, I double end the deals. I find incredible opportunities for them, make returns. I probably at least given away $300 million worth of deals. So
when you were with this guy starting out, you were giving away the deals.
I was just a broker, just a salesperson.
Yeah.
And you can get stuck being a salesperson in that transactional hamster wheel.
So let's break that down again. So when I think of realtor, it's like broker. Mm-hmm. They like their listing agent, and then there's a buying agent. Mm-hmm. You were neither one of those?
I was both.
You were both of those?
Most of the time, yeah.
And so how were you giving it away? Just so people are listening.
Yeah, so that means that I would find an investor.
Yeah.
And not take down the deal myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I would give away all my deals. And, my best year, I made like $750,000 in commissions, which is great.
Yeah.
But if I would have bought those deals,
Yeah.
I would have made over $100 million.
You're saying if you would have locked those deals in,
myself, raised the
you
capital.
could have either wholesaled them or kept them, however that looked, but you would have made a ton more money.
Yeah, I would have syndicated partners and would have kept the real estate and then exited at a much higher sales price.
That makes sense. So basically, that's a good lesson for people watching is, don't leave the money on the table, right? I mean, sometimes you have to start that way, right?
But don't let it be your finish line. Like I didn't get into investing. Remember, I was still like this after I lost it all. Like I still kind of was like, oh no, I'm a great salesperson. I'm the best, blah, blah, blah. But that will keep you in the rat race still. Even though I was making $750,000, that still keeps you in the rat race.
Hey, so can I go back a little bit? And I don't want to pry on your life, but like your previous marriage, like, did that hold you back a little bit?
On certain aspects, yes, because I was trying to make him happy.
Yeah.
It was a very unhealthy relationship, so I was very happy to get out.
Yeah.
And the biggest reason why I got out, not because it was not just emotionally, physically abusive, it was having that be done in front of our children. And like me tolerating someone abusing me in front of my two small children. Like by the time I left, my little son was 4 and my oldest at the time was 7. Like I'm showing my kids that they should tolerate this behavior.
Yeah.
And if I didn't get out, I would have like taught them that like this is okay. And so for me, it was like I actually ended up having my ex-husband completely screwed me over in court. I had an attorney that ended up getting disbarred. I had pretty much no representation.
Hold on, your attorney got disbarred?
Yes.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, and then I filled out a form and like let this be a big message out there. I worked with his attorney to draft our like divorce decree, and unfortunately, like I lied about the abuse, and that actually I pretty much gave up my rights at that point. If I would have been honest about the abuse, I would have had full custody today. Now I have to pay my ex-husband child support.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's still probably at home with his new wife.
Yeah, he has his new wife, and like he has his own job. He's supposed to be with the kid 50% of the time. He sees him 10% of the time, and he always constantly points some finger at me. Like I had to pay for everything for him, but you know what? It was worth the cost leaving him.
Yeah.
It was like I will never like ever sit there and be like, oh, like poor me. I'm like, well, thank God gave me enough to be able to leave.
Yeah.
Like I want to give women the courage to be able to leave. Like I want women to be able to make more money so they can leave.
Yeah.
Like,
So people don't feel stuck.
Yeah. I'm very grateful that I was able to get out of that relationship. And that I was able to find my husband during that process.
Yeah. Which I met him. He's a great guy. Sounds like there's 3 kids in the house. So
Yeah. I actually met my husband at a little kid's birthday party. He saw my, face on the Facebook invite list, and he's like, if she's there, I'm going to talk to her.
Nice.
Yeah, so he kind of blindsided me, but he met me with my kids. It was not like it was at a little kid's birthday party. I was at his brother's house, and it just like we connected instantly. I invited him to church the next day, and he just was like wanting to be there instantly. I never asked him to, hey, can you help me with my kids? He instantly stepped in, was wanting to be a father for them.
I think it's totally cool, and I don't know a lot about you. We're just meeting for the first time, but I think you got to tell that story more often.
Thank you.
And the reason why is to show not only young women, but anyone in a bad relationship, like there's more. You know what I mean? And then you came through it. You were still grinded through it, because some people give up, and it's sad.
It definitely made me want to give up, because the first actual dinner we tried to have together, my ex-husband held my kids hostage. And like I actually had to leave my husband with my best friend and leave dinner to go like take care of my kids. That was humiliating.
Yeah.
So what a way to start a new relationship with baby mama drama.
Yeah. I'm in my second marriage, and it was my ex was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I totally get like having a bum right there.
Yeah. It was definitely challenging, but my husband was definitely my rock through that. I remember when I was dating him for about 10 days, and my son was really sick. My ex-husband was supposed to take my son to the doctor, and he didn't. And he said he was. So my husband came over that night. We had a day. He brought me roses. He brought me sushi. He brought me like $300 worth of like naturopathic medicine for my son. I was like, wow, that was really sweet. You know what I mean? And then the next morning I was like, okay, Joshua, just, go get some coffee. I'll get the kids to school. I didn't want the kids seeing that he spent the night. And I'm like, we'll like catch later, you know, like after the kids go to school.
Yeah.
But I picked up my kids from my ex-husband's house, and my son was so sick. And I found out that he didn't take him to the doctor, and then reality set in. I'm like, I can't date anybody right now. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I trying to date? Like, I'm like, I have kids. I'm like, this isn't going to work. So I told Joshua to leave, but he didn't. He was still there. He carried my son inside, and he's like, take Chelsea to school and I will, you know, take care of him. And I took her to school, and he took him to the doctor. He built him a car. And then we went and got groceries. And then later on that night, he starts reading him the Bible for the first time. My kids have never really heard the Bible before.
Yeah.
And he was like, had a glass globe, like, what is it, a glass bowl? Yeah, a glass bowl. And he's like showing him the firmament and like going over everything. And then my kids are like, I'm like, they're just loving it. And I'm like, okay, guys, he needs to go home.
And they're like, no.
And they grabbed him and they're like, oh, don't send him home. I'm like, oh shit, everyone's going to judge me and everyone's going to, you know, but like, he was like insta dad.
Hey, and that's when you proposed to him? I'm just kidding.
No.
You're like, this is the perfect dude.
No, you know what is so great is my husband.
It's cool. Super cool.
Yeah, my husband, we're Christians, but my husband was raised Mormon. I always wanted a Mormon, but not a Mormon. You know, because like they know about families and obviously how to make a lot of kids, but you know, that's not happening with us. But you know, it's great because he has that core family value, how he was raised, but like having like him just teach your kids like being a true Christian and following the word, and that's another big reason why we created Grace. The commercial real estate market is not graceful. It is the most unworthy, like cutthroat, dirty business. It's a terrible business to be in, and but it can also be the most rewarding business to be in, and that's why we're so different. We're the first faith-based investment brokerage. We want to bring grace to commercial real estate. And let me tell you why. So the commercial institutional brokers are not NAR members, so they don't have to follow code of ethics. That's why they don't advertise listings. That's why they double in.
What's NAR?
National Association of Realtors.
Okay.
Yeah. So that means that like when an institutional brokerage takes on your listing, they only represent the seller. So they don't co-broke. That means they don't share commissions. Like, so an outsider agent coming in, they won't get part of that deal. And then typically also the seller with those institutional brokers generally will price their properties very aggressively so they can double end the deal, which is actually a disservice to the seller because they could actually get more if it was actually listed.
You're talking about in a commercial space still?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's what makes us so different is because we give full co-brokes, we give full disclosure, we try to get the best opportunity and best prices for our actual investors and our sellers. That's
a good selling point for your company is like because you have to separate yourself in a, you know, the market, it's saturated right now. And like you said, is bringing some ethical morals into it, some integrity, like some grace.
Yes.
I'm a Christian as well. My wife runs our church. I help her, but her parents my in-laws are the pastors. So living a good godly life is like it's ingrained. I wasn't born that or raised that way.
No, I was raised Catholic.
I wasn't raised anything. I was raised hood.
Oh, okay.
Bad, real bad. But like now, as soon as I got into church, you know, giving our children something bigger and better to believe in, you know, that's higher and bigger than us, you know, because we can only do so much, but when we know there's someone else that can do way more, that it's infinite, you know, and you have something to believe for that's greater than what you and I can ever do.
Yeah.
Like why won't people believe in that?
Yeah. And that's why we want to be different for a reason.
Yeah.
And that, you know, I went through a lot. Like, yes, me and Joshua got married, but I also was very broken when I got into a marriage with him. I, you know, didn't have much still self-worth because of all the abusive relationships I endured. And I didn't show up in the best way with him either. So, you know, I always would point the finger at my husband, you know, he needs to be more like me or he needs to change, but I never pointed the finger at myself. And it wasn't until like 21, I did an apartment building flip and I actually invested into myself. I spent $100,000 on a Tony Robbins program,
nice,
a platinum program. And the reason why I did that was because I went to a real estate meetup and everyone's like, oh, they have a coach. And like, this is like during 2020 when like all of us were coming out of COVID 21. And it just kind of inspired me that day. And I was like, I need to get a coach. Why not Tony Robbins? So like they hooked me up with this coach, right? And it was like $10,000. And they're like, oh, you need a master or an elite coach. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I want a strong man to help me like conquer the world. Cause like, I wasn't sure if I wanted to still be with my husband at that time. Like we were having issues, right? Like all my like insecurities, all my issues, that stuff doesn't go away with your last relationships. They'll keep on repeating the same pattern, right? And so like, I would constantly emasculate my husband. I didn't even know I was doing that. But like, I was that boss. I was that strong woman. I made money. And that's, I felt like I was better than everything or any other person. Like that's how I would show up, unfortunately.
So who was your coach?
They gave me a lady. I didn't want a woman.
Not a big, strong man.
No.
So they gave you a lady?
Yeah, her name was Joy Putnam. She was amazing. She said that she got me to become a lot more feminine. I think Joshua was very happy about that. She's told me to show up and treat my husband like Jesus. And I did not like that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, he's done this. And he's done that. And, you nitpick. And then like, you're also like thinking about all your past relationships. You just do this stack, right? And so like, she's like, yeah, just do it unconditionally for 60 days and see what happens. And she's like, and if he makes a change, then it can work. And if it doesn't, then it won't. So I showed up unconditionally for 60 days. I went to Tony's Unleash the Power Within event. And it was really the Date with Destiny event that like, I used to just be like, oh, well, he did this and did that. But I didn't really actually get to know my husband on a much deeper level. And I would just focus on like, oh, his imperfections versus like actually understanding pain of his past or other things that has happened to him. So yeah. It wasn't until like I looked past all that and just really showed up and treated him unconditionally. And we made a 360-degree change within 52 days. That's amazing. I was like counting the days. Literally, I was counting the days.
Do you think, and don't take this personal or anything, but I don't want anyone to do, but like I remember my wife started following some lady. I can't remember her name, but she was married to the one, oh God, what's her name? She wrote books and all kinds of stuff. She was doing these conferences and all this stuff, and it was all about women power. Women power. Next thing you know, she's divorced. And do you think like that some women take that too far? Like,
yeah,
like
I didn't understand a man until Tony really broke it down.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what a man's needs were. I just thought I gave my husband what he needed, but I didn't.
Yeah.
As like, in my opinion, he wants to feel appreciated and he wants to be respected. And I didn't do any of those things. I would just nag him, Like,
because you wanted it your way.
Yeah. And it was just like, oh, well, he's not doing what I'm doing. So therefore he's like, duh, and then you have all these other complications and you're bringing two different
lifestyles, two different personalities. Did you guys go through the 5 love languages? What's that book?
I think we did actually. Yeah. My husband loves touch. He just wants to be hugged and touched all the time. He's like a big puppy.
And you like you like things? What is yours? Affirmation, words of affirmation, or
more words of affirmation? And I do love diamonds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all over you.
Yes.
No, it's super cool because people like every time we watch something, there's a lot of podcasts, there's shorts and all this stuff. No one talks about real life stuff. Everyone's like, look at my Ferrari, look at my Lambo, look at my big house. I
really don't care about any of that. I really care. Yeah.
Those are cool.
Right.
But people need to know, like, there's a younger Sophia coming up. There's a younger Josh coming up. There's a younger Chris coming up. And they need to know, like, what real life is about.
Yeah.
When you're grinding, like, you're going to hit freaking brick wall and, like, you're going to go through hard trials and hardship. And, and I think, like, probably, I'm kind of lucky that I have in-laws that are pastors. Because they just like open the Bible and like, it's right here. You're having an issue? It's right here. If my wife and myself are fighting, it's right here. They'll try to send us on some trip or something like so we calm down or something.
Choke each other.
Yeah. Before it gets bad. So So, okay, so let's get back into real estate because that's a super cool story. I'm telling you, you got to tell it more because people need to learn, like, just overcome, get through it, keep grinding, keep hustling.
I could have lost my husband. I would have repeated the same pattern I had.
Yeah,
it's scary.
That we do it. It's the same thing. Like you said, you took your baggage with you.
Yeah,
you're just like traveling instead of from state to state. You're going from
I really did need to become a believer to be able to, be on the same page with him because like I never relied on God before. I've always just been I have to make things happen myself.
Yeah.
So like
and
always,
but doesn't like when you like for me, I get that way too, and my wife would be like, you know what, I'm gonna pray something bad happens to you, and I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, go ahead, keep messing around. Something bad's I'll start fighting with her just because she says that. Because she's like, well, you're the one causing it. Something's going to happen, and she'll have to kind of like wind me in,
Yeah.
Because I'm probably more aggressive. She's aggressive too, but like, I don't know, maybe I'm more, when you walked in, did you see that sign that said your ego is not your amigo?
Yeah. Joshua was looking at that.
Yeah. That's like that's for me. Like I put that there for me.
Oh, I love it.
Because my ego, and I'm not like this big shot dude, but our heads can get really big and you start making a little bit of money, and then people start following you around, and just the different things are happening, right? And you can easily like get outside of yourself and think it is yourself, and that's when we're like, okay, I got to get a message. That's when my mother-in-law, she'll text me, she'll know if like my wife and myself are fighting or something, and she'll literally text me like some scripture, like. And I'm like, how did you even know? You know what I mean? Because it's like, we got to calm ourselves down, And for us, I think a lot of that stuff's in the Bible. So you're selling apartments, you're brokering apartments. You have like agents underneath you.
Yeah.
How many agents do you have?
We have 11 actually. We've been
cool.
Yeah, we've been a private brokerage. We've never recruited and wanted to recruit until now. So now we're actually wanting to scale. And eventually we want to be in every state as well too, because I feel like there's such a huge gap.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get stuck being transactional, and I actually want to invest with my agents. I want agents to be able to do deals with me. I'll give you an example. So, I flipped a building with one of my agents, Michael, and we bought the deal on the MLS. It was $905,000. And it was funny because I was at the gym and he called me. He's like, hey, Sophia, did you see this one? I'm like, yeah. And at the time I was flipping a 20 unit at that time. And I'm like, well, I don't have as much capital. He's like, well, I have a buyer for it. I'm like, why don't we buy it? So we went on it 50-50. We split the profits. We put $300,000 in holding costs, bought on a hard money note, split the commissions, but we made $1.2 million.
Nice.
Yeah. We sold it all cash 4 days. It was pretty awesome. The renovation took like 6 months, but that's the type of stuff I'd rather do with an agent versus like chasing a commission.
Yeah. Do you like the multifamily? Was that that was a multifamily, a commercial office?
It was 4 units, 1.2 million spread.
What area?
Scottsdale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we broke the market at $575,000 a unit. They were only like 900 square feet.
Yeah.
2 bedroom,
Super
1 bath.
Cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. That's really cool. People don't think you can make, good money, but you make good money in any deal.
You know what's so great is the smaller apartments you can get in. So let me tell you why I'm in my niche. I'm in the 2 to 100 unit range as an investor for like private, or maybe like throwing a partner in or two. The larger stuff you want to definitely do syndications, like much larger capital. So that way you have a lot less risk. But I'm in my niche because my niche actually trades every 18 months or less, or sometimes I'll trade the same deal 2 to 3 times a year. So that's why I'm in my niche. So like it constantly trades.
Break that down for the listener. Is when it's trading every 18 months or you're redoing the deal. What does that mean?
So a lot of people will come in from California. They buy these apartments in the 2 to 100 unit range, and they expect to get a really good property manager, or they try to manage themselves out of state and they can't do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, we're a very landlord-friendly state, but a lot of times it's really difficult to manage these properties. And most people don't even want to manage these properties. You're chasing tenants out. You're dealing with, like, sometimes druggies, like you're dealing with people that don't want to pay the rent or Section 8. Like, it's not sexy, right?
Okay.
Really ugly little apartments that need a lot of work, need a lot of management. And also, too, some of the owners don't want to put the capital into the property to maintain it. to keep the property up to a certain standard. So that's why they trade so often.
So, you're like the slumlords. So, and is it harder to manage these assets? You call them assets? What do you call them?
Yeah. And another thing is too, a lot of people have had them for like 5 to 10 or 15, sometimes their original owner. And like they have like everyone on a handshake for a lease. To try to sell that with a commercial lender when you don't have leases, you don't have financials, it's very difficult to do. So I had to pretty much put everything together to come up with a certain exit price, right?
So, you know, because like 4 units, you can't really put a property manager there.
You can.
Well, they kind of live there or something like that?
No. They're just a lot of times, a lot of people do not want to manage them. So like,
a property management company because it's so small. Why?
Yeah, it's just because they're a lot of work.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily like
for 4 units instead of they can go get 80 units or 200 units or whatever.
Exactly. So it's like kind of almost like a waste of their time.
So these things are trading every 18 months, a year and a half to 3 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And does that also include they trade because of the loan?
No, not necessarily. It's also because the appreciation on these buildings go up so quickly.
Okay, yeah, because it's really, when you get multifamily, if people don't know, it's a business.
Yes, you're running a business, no matter if it's 2 or more.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
Because you get the income in, and now you got a pro forma, and you got all this. Yeah. I was doing a little bit of teaching or training on it with Bobby Castro. Have you heard of Bobby Castro? He's in Florida.
Oh, cool.
So he's got probably about $750 million worth of assets. So I was learning a little bit. I was doing some coaching classes with them, and so I know a little bit about it. So I like it. It's I look for deals right now. I just haven't found nothing because everything's really pricey, and I'm not doing it enough. I'm not looking at it enough.
Are you calling brokers or are you going direct?
Both. I'm trying both, but like that's why you're here. We found you for a reason.
Yeah.
Because I want to get more into real estate because, you know, we make X amount of dollars and we got to do something with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's fun because you can buy a piece of property, maybe rehab it, right?
Yeah.
We're good at that.
Yeah.
We're really good at fixing stuff up.
Yeah, I love gutting properties.
Yeah.
You can definitely make an amazing return that way.
Yeah.
Like the ones that people don't want to invest in.
Yeah, because there's too much work or they don't understand it.
Or it's too expensive if they don't want a contracting company.
Yeah, because you get a contractor in there and they're just, you know, especially when it's a fast deal type thing, the contractor's like, yeah, it's $700,000 and they're just throwing numbers out there.
Right.
You know, when it's really could have been like $370,000.
Oh, yeah. And for them, they're looking for a spread. I had a little bit of difficulties. I just picked up a building in Florida.
Nice.
And I had prices all over the place, but my average price on a fourplex was $360,000. I was like, screw you. Like,
so for the rehab?
For the rehab, for new electrical, new like plumbing, like making them look like beautiful Airbnb, but I've never spent that.
$100,000 a unit.
Yeah, more.
That's a lot.
Yeah, practically more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it was frustrating, but like for me, I didn't get into like the flipping game until 2019, and that's actually when me and my husband started our company.
Yeah.
I was actually teaching a small, like, I don't know if you heard of Renatus, but my friend asked me to go teach a class there. It was like a networking group.
Okay.
And I taught about multifamily, and a wholesaler brought me my first deal. I was like, oh, perfect. I have a buyer lined up. I can get 3%. And, you know, and then I started thinking, when's it going to be my turn? You know? And nobody had it under contract. They've all fell out of the contract because they didn't know how to value this asset because it was 7plex and it was in Tempe. So I called the owner direct. It was a Home Smart agent. I knew where the current cap rate was, and I went in non-refundable, $7,000 non-refundable. I had just like went through a divorce, so like I was pretty much out of capital at this point. I only had like $230,000 left to my name after my divorce. So I was like, I really want to like do better now, like as I'm like transitioning into like starting our own company. I'm like, when's it going to be our turn? So I decided to buy it. I put $90,000 down. I bought in my self-directed pension plan, and then I took photos of it, put it listed, and I sold it within 6 weeks, all cash, and I made $373,000 just like that, just for finding this damn deal.
That's amazing.
And then I took it and I did it again and again and again, and I did it for about 2.5 years, and I grew it to $6 million with just little shitty apartments.
So do you like what you do you like being the broker or finding the deal?
I like being the investor. I like also being the broker, but I also reward my brokers that feed me. I let them list my properties after they feed me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take away their bread. You don't do that. And I'll tell you a little story about that. When I told you, like, I've given away at least $300 million worth of deals. The deal that really kind of made me upset was I did a 96 unit off market, and Chris at Colliers represented the seller. Love that guy. He's a great broker to work with. And I represented a 1031 exchange buyer, 96 units off market in Mesa, got it for $7 million. He decided to use my buyer, an out-of-state institutional broker that was doing the loan, and he wasn't paying attention to the guidelines. And Fannie and Freddie can take like 120 to even up to 140 days to close. So we're like getting past that like extension parts on the financing, because those are institutional loans. They take a long time.
Yeah.
And so what happened was, as we're in escrow, my guy had Marcus and Milchap call them, the seller, behind Chris's back, behind my back. We're like, hey, by the way, this building just traded for this price. Seller caught wind of that and wanted out of our contract. So he did everything he could to sabotage our contract. It was scary at that time. This is in like 2016. So we ended up keeping the deal, but my buyer asked me, he's like, can you give me $35,000 of your commission because I'm having to pay for attorneys and all this other stuff? And I'm like, sure. You know, like I protected him as much as I could, but I couldn't protect him what his loan officer was doing to him.
Yeah.
So I said, he's like, I'll get you on the back end. So he ends up selling it with the same people that screwed him over at Marcus and Milchap, and he sold it for almost $27 million. So I made him $18.5 million in 6 years. I wish I would have bought that deal, because that could have been like, you know what I mean? Like, see how like investors are not loyal?
Yeah.
And this is like kind of a message to like agents and, you know, people that try to do like bring people together. It's harder than you think, but like relationships are everything. You don't want to burn bridges. So that's why I'm like, I'm trying to teach people, don't give your deals away.
Yeah.
I can teach you how to keep them, or at least be able to sell them at least. So after I went through Tony Robbins, like I decided to create a course. It's called Learning Apartments. Nice. And it actually teaches simple as a wholesaler, an investor, an agent, or a new syndicator how to get deals with or without a broker. 90% of all our transactions are actually traded off market. And then especially when you come from like a new syndication group, or you join like a group for 25 to 50,000 and like you've never done real estate before and you're trying to call brokers that are institutional, like most of the time they won't give you the time of day. Why would they give you a $100 million asset, $20 million asset off market? They can't even trust you on the phone. Like, you're not going to get those deals. Yeah. Right. And like, no one teaches that aspect of like how to actually get your own deals with or without a broker. So that's why I was like, I want to bridge that gap for everybody, and also how to protect yourselves in deals. When I say protect yourself, 40% to 60% of all our multifamily is underwater right now. I would say,
is that because of the loan structure, because of inflation?
Anybody that bought in 19 to 22 here in Phoenix did a lot of short-term debt. They did 12 to 36 month bridge notes. They came in and they did some paint on the outside. They renovated maybe 20 to 30%, and they thought they could continue to raise the rents.
And refinanced.
Yeah, and now they're not able to. So a lot of people are now going to lose their assets. There's actually millions of units right now with their notes coming due nationwide, but Arizona is one of the markets that gets hit the hardest. Yeah. Our market here in Arizona is down like 80%. We only have like 160 that are actually on the market. And all the other stuff, like we're trying to trade them, but like they're so upside down even from the price that they're even asking. Like they're, you know, oh, like I'm taking $1 million loss, or I'm taking this much loss, but it's still not enough to offset the interest rate.
I know. Yeah, that's what's happening is those notes are coming due. Yeah,
and that's what I actually teach people, actually how to go direct to the asset manager or go directly to the portfolio manager, even the funds manager, to be able to take down those assets.
You're talking about inside the syndication?
No, I'm talking about like directly.
Like to the bank or the mortgage company? Or to
the bank, and also to the owner directly.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So like nobody teaches that stuff.
No, it's super cool. So what's the difference between, like, say someone says, hey, and Sophia, why aren't you buying houses? Why are you buying apartments?
I do buy single family if there's opportunities in the spread. Like I picked up one on a carryback recently. There's like a $450,000 to $550,000 spread. There's always an opportunity, whether it's single family or even multifamily. I don't say like absolutely no single family, because you're kind of cutting yourself a little short. I think single family is a great way for people to get started, but start transitioning into more doors.
Yeah. That way you just get that rent coming from 30 of them instead of one.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So in your course, your teaching are you looking for a particular type of person to join these courses, or is this open to everybody?
It's open to everybody that's actually wanting to learn how to actually get started. Because like I want to help out the little guy become like something much bigger than themselves.
Yeah. And so how do they find that information? What's the website or
it's learningapartments.com.
Learningapartments.com. Mm-hmm. And is there costs on there, or do you got to interview them and give them the price, or it's all on there?
It'll be on there for them, and then we have different levels and different tiers as well. But one of the best things I'm most excited about is we have a new software called Pro Underwriter.
Oh wow!
So it actually has it could potentially, in my opinion, I wanted to replace Excel. Excel is so hard to use, but it takes your Excel docs that you actually get from the owners or the brokers, and it actually underwrites the deal for you. It also has a AI parser, so like that way it actually can track like where the actual like problems are. Like, hey, this person doesn't have a security deposit. It basically highlights red on everything. So on an Excel sheet, you can change one number and it can completely skew the whole entire like underwriting. But with this, you can't. So that way people can't pull a fast one on you.
So you're saying they get the pro forma, all the underwriting documents, and you would kind of input that into this software?
Yeah, it just basically you drop in your Excel file and actually does it for you.
So it's just reading through everything.
Yeah, all through AI, which is incredible. You know what's really cool too is like, say if you go to like a large networking event and you like go to syndications, or you meet brokers or you meet other syndicators, where you can like literally scan somebody's like QR code and it actually goes right to your database. It actually has a database where it's basically like its own internal CRM. So now you can have all your files, all your Excel files, all your offering randoms, all the financials, your rent rolls and everything, all within that contact for that deal. So that way you don't have to scramble like, oh, this person, I talked to that person. It's all connected together.
So all under the Pro Underwriter.
Yes. And also too, which is really cool, it actually will create an LOI for you. So now you can write LOIs way quicker based off of your underwriting. And you can actually show proof why you actually have this offer based off of your LOI. So it just saves time, because you can spend hours underwriting. Who has time for that?
What's some of the biggest mistakes people make when like doing underwriting, reviewing that pro forma?
So never trust a broker. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I know, because the properties that I have looked at, they make these things look so sexy and they're making so much money, and you really dive deep, you're like, there's nothing left.
No, it's a business, right? And there's always either a mismanagement, or the broker's overpriced the listing, or the seller's unrealistic. So how do you find that delicate balance? Well, I always focus on one thing first, is always my exit. How long am I actually going to hold this asset for? Why am I buying in this particular location? Where's my exit? And I need to have multiple exits. And that's actually how I look at my deals first. I never just look at it as like, oh, well, it's in a good location. And no, I always start with the exit in mind, because like, what if? Like, look what happened to our interest rates. What if this? What if like the location's like getting so much worse and you can't keep it rented? Like, you have to think about all these scenarios before you get into an asset.
That's super cool. So are you doing any kind of conferences or speaking events or anything coming up?
Yeah, so I'm going to be doing another one hopefully soon at the For Rent Center with Bryant and Cody. Okay. So yeah, we're going to be doing a hiring event here probably in April.
Nice.
I'll have it posted on our website.
That's super cool. And what about like as we start to wrap this thing up, you know, what if someone's looking to get in the apartment game, you know, and they're saying, well, I don't have no money, or I only have this amount of money, you know, what would be like a good nugget to them so they can actually get in, besides calling you and looking you up?
Oh, yeah, no, not a problem. I think the biggest thing that people need to focus on is actually investing in themselves. Yeah, if they can't invest in themselves, they're never going to be able to help themselves. Yeah. So what I mean by that is you either need to learn through my course. Yeah. You either need to become an agent. It doesn't cost that much, and then you can actually start using your commissions to actually buy deals. Or 3, maybe become a wholesaler. You don't need your license. You just need to get a good mentor that way.
Find the deals, lock them up. And
exactly. And use InvestorLift. That's a really great platform to use.
So are you bringing on any new agents? Or are you kind of capped?
No, we're bringing on agents.
Yeah, so
it's the first time.
If someone watches this, like, I want to be an agent with you. Yeah. Boom, you're open.
Yeah, it's the first time that we're actually bringing on new agents. So
I love it. And so you're expanding. You're bringing on agents. You're flipping units. You're all over. You're rebuilt your marriage.
Yeah.
Got 3 kids.
Yeah.
I love it. You got the diamonds. Got the cross on you.
Yeah.
Living a godly life. So before we leave, what's a powerful nugget you'd give that young up and comer, either entrepreneur or leader, just someone that's thriving and really trying to do their best? Like, give them that power nugget.
I think we had kind of like a thing that we said, where it said, faith is the assurance of things not yet seen, but hoped for through grace. And the reason why I say that is don't give up.
Yeah.
And, like, grace honestly means like undeserving favor. And as long as you believe that God will provide for you, he'll definitely provide a way. Like, it's really hard to like I've started from nothing and then like had some highs and then start from nothing again. Life's not going to be perfect, but like, honestly, if you create the life you want to have, you can make anything possible for you. I
love it. So there it is, guys. Don't give up. Sophia, where can we find you?
You can go to gracecre.com and you can find us there, or learningapartments.com.
What about Instagram?
We're on Instagram, Sophia APTS. And then my name's Sophia Willets on Facebook.
So if you want to learn and grow with the killer in the game, she's killing it. Follow her and like and subscribe all of our stuff. Be blessed.